2026 is going to be an awesome year. We got some pretty cool stuff coming up. First off, we got Foundations of Recovery. This is our flagship program. We're starting it in January.
This is for anyone, man, woman, or couple who wants to come and reclaim their heart from shame, trauma, and betrayal. We start off with an education on all sorts of principles, give you the common language. We feed you from a fire hose in terms of all things recovery.
It is such a great start to recovery. And we get at the roots of things, Tyler. This isn't like any other program. Like, this is our healing journey in process, and Foundations is where we begin.
If you look at the value that you're getting there to kick off a good recovery with all of the right education, all of the right language, and a team to get you started while also being directed by Brandon and myself through the whole process, what a deal.
So if you're interested, if you're struggling, if you've been wanting to do something for a long time, jump into this. This only comes around every so often, and we would love to have you there.
Click the link in the description to sign up for it. And to make it even sweeter, we're also including a raffle for a free pass to the Radiant Dawn retreat. Anyone who signs up for Foundations will be added to the raffle for that free Radiant Dawn pass. If you're a man and you sign up for Foundations, your name still gets entered, and you can give that pass away if you win it to any woman that you want to.
So what you're saying, Tyler, is if you sign up and participate in Foundations, you could possibly go to Radiant Dawn for free?
That's exactly what I'm saying, which is crazy because Foundations by itself is already an insane value.
Man, I sound so salesy. But it actually is awesome. So come to Foundations. And even if you don't come to Foundations, sign up for Radiant Dawn. It's beyond therapy, the best healing experiences that you can have.
Click the link below and come join us.
My husband is acting out with other men. How do I get past that? Welcome to the Real Talk Recovery Podcast with the Therapy Brothers. We're brothers, we're therapists, and we know recovery.
Bring your stories, your questions, your successes with real recovery. All right, Brandon, this is going to be a good discussion today. We've got a really courageous caller that's going to be coming on with us too. But it was nice to see you this weekend.
Yeah, it's good. It's always good to drive up to Cache Valley. It's beautiful up there. So
yeah.
It was awesome. So Tyler and I were recording some stuff, but we couldn't record for very long because there was this aerial plane just like falling from the sky and doing all these loops and all this stuff right above us. So we didn't record much, but at least I got a good show.
Yeah, you basically drove an hour and a half each way to come up and watch an airplane show with me when we were supposed to be doing a bunch of recording.
And you know what? It was totally worth it.
It was great. Yeah, it was awesome. It's just going to delay our ability to get out some of the stuff we were trying to record. So
I know,
but it'll come. So it was great though. It's amazing to see that guy fly in that plane and see someone who's a true master at their craft and would go, wow,
he was getting so low to the ground and then like shooting straight up in the air, and then the plane would like stop midair and like float down, and it was crazy. So yeah. Anyway, speaking of ups and downs, Christine, welcome to the show.
Hello, how are you?
Really good. So if you could start by just giving us a little bit of background, telling us what's going on with you, and then ask a question, and we'll go from there.
Okay. So on Memorial Day in 2020, I discovered some things on my husband's phone account that led me to believe that he had been looking at porn and having other addictions. He already was addicted to alcohol, so that was an issue. It was kind of a slow trickle at first, and then I basically gave an ultimatum: you tell me everything or I'm going to leave. So he did do a disclosure. This is before I knew anything about betrayal trauma or anything like that. So it might not have been the best disclosure, but he really did research and try to make it so it wasn't as painful for me to learn the facts. But in that disclosure, I found out that he had acted out with men in the past, along with others. But that's the one where I'm just really stuck on that. And I've taken this last year and I'm really focusing on myself. I hope he's working on his recovery. I don't really know. I'm not monitoring him, but
okay.
I've been working on me, and this is just an issue that I keep going back to.
So Christine, in the disclosure, I imagine all kinds of things came out that you didn't know. But this acting out with men really rocked your world. And I can see why. I want to ask you, what is it about that is so hard to let go of and move on from?
It's just such a sensitive topic. I don't want to shame or show that I don't approve of it. I think to each their own. But in my life, in my relationship, that I guess is like a sexual template that I am not okay with in my relationship.
Right.
What does it mean to you when you say that it's a sexual template that I'm not okay with in my relationship? What does it mean to you? Like, what's the story in your head?
It just feels icky. I think about it and it just brings me disgust.
Mm-hmm. Is there fear there also that he's not attracted to you, that he's not attracted to women?
Yes, and we have talked about it, and I can't say I have the trust in him to believe him when he says he's not attracted to men, that he is attracted to me, and that's, he hasn't shown me what I need to see for the trust to be there. So there is that as well, the fear.
The other things that were in the disclosure, were you able to move past those things fairly well?
Yes, I really feel like I've been working on that. And when I look back, those aren't the things that like take my breath away. I feel like I'm kind of moving on past those. I'm not in the shock phase anymore. I feel like I was in shock for probably 8 months after that. And since then, I've really just tried to dig in and work through the pain.
Okay.
So you said you've been doing your work. It sounds like you don't know where he's at totally. Do you get a sense that the work is happening? I mean, are things moving forward with you guys as a couple, or is it still just a total individual thing right now?
As a couple, I feel like we're stuck. He has made major changes in his life. He did travel for work, so he's completely changed jobs. We've moved. He has stopped drinking completely, so he is trying, I believe.
How long has he been sober off the alcohol?
Since May 25th of 2020.
Oh, okay. So it's quite some time. And that's no small thing to get off the alcohol.
Right. It was a struggle for sure.
As far as
go ahead, Tyler.
Sorry. As far as, I guess I'm just trying to get an assessment too of like what you guys' lines of communication is like right now. As far as communication about the work that you guys are doing, is that open, or is there open dialogue, or are you guys kind of two people on two separate islands right now?
There is open dialogue on my end. I feel like I have to dig to get him to tell me what's going on and what he's been learning. And I feel he still has quite a bit of shame to work through. So a lot of times I don't feel that he hears me because he's lost in his shame. But I do try to speak with him about it. It's not like we're two completely separate individuals living in the same home.
And when you guys do talk about it, you said you feel like you're pulling teeth, but he's there to participate. It's not like he's stonewalling you or telling you that to back off or that you're not allowed to have those discussions.
Right. I think he's trying to the best of his ability. Yes.
Okay. All right.
So do you talk to him about your stuckness a little bit, where you're at right now and having a hard time overcoming this?
Yes, he knows where I'm at right now with this. And that
how does he respond?
And I tell him it's about the men thing, and he just over and over is, that's not true. I don't like men. I'm not attracted to men. It was never about men. So.
What is the explanation? What was it about?
He believes it was porn that led him down that road, that created fantasies in his head that he acted out.
Okay. So a lot of different things could be going on, Christine. And I think Tyler and we could probably ask you questions for the next hour, right, and just gather information and try to really come to an understanding of what's actually happening. And I think that's probably what you're doing too, is like you're just trying to figure out what's actually happening.
Right.
So let's just talk about the possibilities here a little bit. One possibility is that he is gay and he's lying to you, and that he is just his arousal template is very much toward men. That is a possibility. So if that is the case, then what? Christine, what would you do with that?
If that's the case, I'd want him to live the lifestyle to his true self. I don't want him feeling trapped in a marriage where, maybe he's not attracted to women. I would want him to go out and live that lifestyle, and not be going against his inner being,
So if that were the case, you would want to set him free,
right,
and let him go
right,
do that, right? Okay. So, but he's saying that's not the case.
right.
Like, Christine, that's not the case. That's, yes, I acted out that way, but that's not where I'm at. Okay. So what if it is other possibility here? He was curious. The pornography pushed him into some acting out and things that he was exploring with. He might have enjoyed it. He might not have, but he doesn't have a huge desire to go back to acting out with men. Then what do you do with that?
I guess on that end, he needs to work on his end, and I need to work on my issues with that.
Okay. So let's talk about you first. What does that mean for you to work on your issues with that? If that's the case, because that's what he's presenting to you. This is what he's saying is happening. You don't trust it because you've been lied to a lot. And he's still not showing up as a person or a man who's very trustworthy, because you're still digging. He's not that vulnerable. He's still got a lot of shame. So you're having a hard time really knowing what is for sure.
Right.
But he is saying this is the case. This is what's happening. So for you to do your work, if that is the case, what does that look like?
I guess that means I need to face my fears and extend that trust to him if I want to move on.
Tyler, do you think she should extend trust to him?
Well, I think the long-term play is that, yes, she's right. But what you're getting at, Brandon, and again, we're reading between the lines here without a lot of details, but it sounds like there's fairly good reason why trust isn't fully established yet. So this is where I think maybe you're getting stuck a little bit and tripped up, Christine, is there's probably a part of you that should stay a little bit skeptical, but it's not necessarily about the content as much as it is the way of being in recovery that hasn't really shown up with full trust yet.
Okay.
So that part, if there was more proactive recovery happening, if you were seeing those things happening, if there was more open discussion, if there was those kinds of things where you weren't pulling teeth to get information, that would be the kind of stuff that would then open the platform to then do the work that you're talking about, which is to say, okay, this is scary for me. I probably need to start leaning in a little bit more, but it would be because you already see the work happening and you're starting to trust that what he's telling you is actually true.
Okay.
Let me give an example of what Tyler's saying, because this is spot on, which is, if you say it freaks me out that you have acted out with men, like that scares me and it makes me wonder if you're gay, right? The content that what he's giving you is, I'm not. That was a result of my addiction. I'm not the thing that you're scared of. So don't be scared. Okay. That reaction doesn't build safety and trust with you. Because he could be telling the truth or he could be lying. You don't know. But a person in recovery in that moment would say something more like, well, Tyler, you know what they would say. Help me out here. What would a person in recovery say to a spouse who's saying, I'm scared that you're gay because you've acted out with men?
Right. The response back would include a lot of empathy and understanding.
Yeah.
So it'd be something more like, wow, the fact that you're bringing this up tells me how hard this is for you or how worried you are. And I can only imagine what you're feeling. And And then maybe there'd be some reassurance to say, I just want to reassure you that this and this and this is happening. I know you won't even believe it when I say it.
Yep. But they'd step into that fear and that pain and that with her, right?
Yeah. Well, that's if shame isn't driving it. So it's very possible that what he's telling her is the truth, but he's trying to explain it in order to fix it for her. Yes. When in reality, he's not going to be able to fix it because not by telling her. Right. The fix is going to come through the work itself.
I would say, Tyler and Christine, I know we're talking about it with you right here, but I would say that him saying something like this, like, I have acted out with men, and it makes total sense why you would think that I'm gay. Anyone would think that. That's, that makes sense. And I can see why that freaks you out, because I'm your husband and you want me to be faithful to you and attracted to you. And that's scary. That's really scary. And then just hold that space with you, Christine. Does that make sense? Yes. And versus what Tyler was saying, he gives you the content. No, I'm not gay. I'm not gay. Don't worry about that. Well, that doesn't help you process those feelings and help you feel safe with him to believe that that's actually the truth. And so unless that starts to happen, I wouldn't extend trust quite yet.
Okay.
I would make sure you're in a safe environment with him in that relationship. Now, he's doing some things that are awesome in terms of recovery. Being willing to change his job and not travel, being willing to move, getting off alcohol when he had an alcohol problem, and actually maintaining sobriety for this long. Like, there's some good stuff happening inside of him. And there's some root work that is not happening because the shame is still present and very much there. And so the attachment issues between you and him are there. And until that starts to improve, I wouldn't extend the trust quite yet, or you're ripe to get hurt.
Right.
Yeah. Does that make sense, Christine?
Yeah, I guess in my mind, I'm asking, what would the safety be in this case then?
What would it look like, right?
Yeah, what would it look like?
Yeah.
You're saying what would safety look like in terms of things to feel or watch for with in the context of relationship with him? Is that what you're asking, Christine? Okay. Yeah. So here's a couple of basic principles to watch for, okay? Humility. Are you being met with humility? When is he most often trying to show up in a place of humility and empathy and understanding whenever these conversations come up? Number two, is he open and transparent about his work and his feelings? And that's where it sounds like you're still kind of hitting, maybe his shame is getting in the way there a little bit on those conversations, or maybe it's just a lack of skill to communicate. And then the third thing is there proactive recovery happening? Is there actual effort and work happening? And so if all of those things were coming together, and you've got humility and you've got openness and accountability, and then you've got proactive work happening, those things then start to speak an emotional form of safety that's even more powerful than the verbal form of safety that comes from just trying to prove to you that things are a certain way.
Okay.
Does that make sense? So between that humility, openness, and accountability and right work and effort, how much of that is actually there for you right now?
I believe he has humility, but the other two I don't.
Yeah.
Okay. So what you now see then, it sounds like, is you see somebody who is penitent for their behaviors. They're sad about what they've done. They even might say that they want to be different or change, but then the actual work and the actual ability to speak those things isn't quite fully in place yet.
That's correct.
All right.
What builds trust is integrity, and integrity is when you feel like somebody has integrity, you feel their strength. And so showing up humble, humility is oftentimes, I think, misunderstood. There's a difference between showing up weak and shame-based and showing up humble. And when I talk about knowing he has integrity, you'll feel his strength, and you'll feel his strength through two things. Three things actually. His ability to be very honest with you, even if you don't like it, but very honest. Even when there's consequences to that honesty, he can deal with those consequences and face them. I feel, Christine, from the little bit that you've told us that you don't really trust that he has the strength to deal with the fears of the consequences of living in reality and honesty.
Yeah, I don't. I
don't want to put words in your
mouth. No, I definitely don't feel that he has the strength at this time to deal with that.
Yeah. And without that, there's not going to be safety. Good for him that he did the disclosure. So he did get it out, yes. Right? But it's this ongoing thing in a relationship where I'm going to show up very honest with you about who I am, how I feel, and what's going on with me. I'm going to be open. I'm going to be transparent. I'm going to be figuring out a way not to get caught or seen or fully known. If you feel that from him, then there won't be safety.
Right.
The second thing is what we were talking about earlier is somebody with strength is strong enough to deal with someone else's pain and discomfort. And so I shouldn't say deal with that. They're strong enough to hold someone else's pain and discomfort. So you feel that they can empathize with you, that you can have your emotions and they're not going to freak out and they're not going to fix it and they're not going to do all these things. So there's enough strength there to fully empathize there. So if there's the honesty and the empathy, wow, you're in a safe place now, Christine. And if he does that consistently over time, then you're going to realize I have a partner who has strength. And that's when he says something to you like, I'm not gay, it's not who I really am, you'll believe it because you'll have trust there.
Right.
But that needs to be there first, rather than you just going on a winging a prayer, okay, I hope that that's the truth. His recovery really needs to be intact there before you really start to be vulnerable again with him.
And I just added that, Brandon, that a lot of times, someone in your shoes, Christine, you'll hear something like this and go it's an all or nothing thing where I can't give any trust until all of that's in place. When the truth is that it's really more about, is he willing to step in and practice the things Brandon's talking about? Is he willing to step in and practice empathy? Because he won't get it right the first time, because
he'll be horrible at it.
Yeah, he won't be shame resilient yet to be able to do that. But if you see the effort happening and saying, okay, this is brutal to watch, but I can see the effort happening, that will begin the beginnings of trust, even before the actual end result of what Brandon's talking about is that gets there. So there should be some room, some flexibility to say, okay, we're in the messy practice part of this thing. But if that stuff's not even happening, if the practice isn't even happening, I think that's what Brandon's saying is you're okay probably to stay a little bit further out, looking in and trying to buy time that way.
Yeah. Now I do want to add, Christine, to get you to think about this. The question is how do I, my husband has acted out with men. How do I move past that? The reality is you moving past it isn't completely dependent upon him. So, he'll be this safe person to repair the relationship and be in recovery. Yes. But there's still some trauma there for you, and work to do for you to be able to move beyond this and do your own work to start to grieve and accept the reality of the disclosure. And as you do that, it doesn't mean that you'll stay in the relationship or you won't, right? But your work still is important. Does that make sense?
Right. I guess that's kind of where I was lost is, if I'm not seeing those things from him to show me that he has that integrity, where do I go now? So
yeah,
that answers that.
Tyler?
Yeah. So it sounds like right now you're still in the mode of wanting things to work in your relationship, which is great, especially if that work were to start happening. But what Brandon's getting at now is whether you're in the marriage or out of the marriage, what's the internal part of the healing that can be worked on and can take place right now, even while you're waiting to see if he wants to engage in his recovery or not. And part of that, I think, is I asked you this question earlier, but it's actually to go into the story that goes along with why this thing feels so big.
Right.
Right. Understanding, because the story that we're telling ourselves about this specific kind of a thing probably has little nuggets of like understanding and room and little places where there could be some room for empathy and compassion and maybe even a challenge to some of those beliefs that are keeping us stuck. Does that make sense? Totally. So like if I'm thinking about like a different situation where, somebody did something unkind to me, several years ago in the context of my education. And I've had some really hard resentment for inside myself towards that person for a really long time. The things that they did were, in my mind, intolerable. Like they shouldn't have happened. They weren't fair. They weren't right. All of those things were true. But when I stop and actually break down how and why I see that person the way that I do, I realize that I don't agree with the things that they did, but that I also had also built in my own judgments towards that person as well, that I could take a look at and say, wow, if I didn't believe that little thing, I would suffer way less.
Right.
Yeah. It's because this person was XYZ, like, oh, that's me inserting the blanks, filling in the blanks over something that's 100% mine. So now I get a chance to take a look at it and go, well, is that actually true? If it is, okay, I'm going to have to learn how to accept it. I'm going to have to learn how to deal with that. If it's not actually true, then my work is to actually catch that thought process every time it comes up and then insert the new truth to help myself alleviate the suffering that I have.
Right.
Does that make sense?
So instead of inserting my own story into it, I need to really see the truth for what it is and learn to accept that.
Yeah, and I need to be patient with myself to go into those places and actually take a look at those things and say, what is actually true? What do I want to hold on to here? And what is stuff that may or may not be true, or other things could be just as true? And that takes work. That takes a lot of work on our own part individually, because the default setting would just say, well, the reason why I'm having all these fill in the blank judgments that come in is because that's how I stay protected. Right. Like everything. Well, go ahead, Brandon.
Well, just to go along with what you're saying, Tyler, it's so automatic. Our ego and our protections are so automatic that the layers of perspective there to sort through to get to reality can be like hard to get to. And so that's why it's really helpful to have good friends or a therapist or somebody to bounce things off of to be like, is that really the truth? I see things like, if your husband acts out with a man, all kinds of thoughts, assumptions, ideas come from that. Like, what's wrong with me as a woman? Will he be gay forever? Like all these type of things. When I work with women, if the husband acted out with a woman with bigger boobs than hers, right? It's like, well, what's wrong with me? I'm not good enough. But what's the reality, right, Christine? With your situation, if we look at it and we try to strip away all of the interpretation of it, what is the reality of what's happened with your husband?
I think the reality is I don't know why he did it, but that he did do it.
Yeah, and he did exactly what he did, and you don't know maybe every part of that. But he did do it, and you don't know exactly why. Right? Is the reality that it has anything to do with you?
No, not at all. Well, that's one thing. That's one thing to know and say that, but deep inside, it's another thing to feel it, and that's something I've been working on. So,
right, and it's easy for us to say like it has nothing to do with you. But that shame comes up, and it's like, no. It is about me. There's something, and there's a reason why you hang on to that, because it feels like you got some level of control. Right. So to relinquish that control helps you get to that reality, which helps you then start to process it and heal from this.
Right. I've been listening a lot on the masculine and the feminine, so I'm still learning about it. I just barely started into that, but definitely is letting go of that masculine shield and stepping back and trusting the process, I guess.
Nice job, Christine.
Yeah, I'm hearing a lot of work there. I want to just maybe insert something just as a way of just helping with some understanding and education that might be helpful to you, even though I think where we're headed towards your work is also really important. And it's this, that in the years, and Brandon, you can fill in the blanks if you want a little bit, in the years that I've been doing this work, there have been many, many men that I've worked with who have acted out with other men. And some of the time, like Brandon said, some of the time it's simply just because they end up identifying as gay, and then they end up kind of moving and going that direction. But very often, it's not uncommon for me to have men who identify as heterosexual, but who only act out in homosexual ways, whether that's pornography or with other men. And a lot of times that's really confusing. That's confusing as a partner. It's actually confusing for them too. And a lot of times when they start to dive in and do that work, they start to realize that what they've been pursuing has to do with some of their own core beliefs about sexuality and about men and women. And sometimes it might be that they feel like they've been taught that it's debasing to look at pornography with women because you're debasing women, but men are used to being like seen as like hedonistic or animalistic. Another one is that a lot of times the men that I've worked with have actually been pursuing without knowing it, understanding masculinity, but the way that they pursued it has turned into the sexual acting out with other men. And so there are reasons why those things sometimes happen, and it can actually be the case that what he's telling you is true.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's good to hear that people, they don't talk about this. It's very few and far in between. I've heard stories of other women that have had the same issues. So I knew I wasn't the only one. So that's why, it was really hard. I've been really nervous, but to come on and talk about this, I felt was really important.
Oh, Christine, you have no idea how common what you've gone through is. And just to drive home Tyler's point, I've had clients act out, heterosexual clients acting out, looking at pornography that involves women mostly. And then the tolerance of their addiction builds up. And so they end up on chat rooms. They end up in strip clubs, getting prostitutes. Their tolerance still builds up, and they still want something more, something riskier, want to try something new. And so they act out with men. And it's interesting, just saying that, and then I've seen them get in recovery, and they are heterosexual still. And so the tolerance can push them to limits and places that they never thought they would go.
Right.
And so there's that type of person. There's a spectrum. I've also worked with men in a marriage, and they are very much homosexual. They are not heterosexual, and they're trying to play that part of heterosexual, and it wreaks all kinds of havoc in the marriage and with the spouse, and so you're trying to sort it out, right? What is it with him? And we're not helping you really get down to what it is with him. But what we have talked about earlier in this episode are the things that are really in your control. Right. So to be able to observe him, kind of see what real recovery is, feel how safe he is and how safe he isn't, work on your own thoughts and your own shame and your own perceptions of what it means about you, right? And then there's other things that you can continue to do. And it sounds like you're doing a lot of this, Christine, but getting a support system yourself, doing your dailies, like really feeling healthy and self-care, knowing what your boundaries are and how to assert yourself in those boundaries and take care of yourself and be empowered in those things so you can be authentic and not live in a place of fear. Like there's a lot of stuff there that you can really work on, whether or not he's gay or not. Right? So
what's going through you right now, Christine? Feelings, thoughts, questions?
I mean, it's such a huge picture to step back and see where I can improve, whether or not, like you said, that he's doing his work or not, where I can improve in my perceptions and work on myself. So I'm just kind of trying to see the overall picture, not the little day-to-day nitty-gritty stuff that sometimes you get caught up in.
Christine, what was better for you when you were kind of out in the dark on this, like he was hiding it from you, you didn't know what was going on, or now where you are aware what's going on, but you're left with these triggers and these thoughts about and fear about things? What's better?
I mean, hindsight's always 20/20. I can look back and see how unhappy I really truly was when I thought I was happy. I didn't know what happiness was, and now, that this has come out in the open, the work I've done on myself, I know what happiness is. I know who I am, and these are things that I'd never had my entire life until this happened. So I'd rather be where I'm at now than in the dark.
Yeah, you're trudging through it. It's hard. It's stinky and hard and difficult right now, but it's better than you're moving forward. Right. Is what you're doing, and that's much better.
Right. I didn't even realize I needed to before. I didn't know there was a better way, and now I do. So.
Right.
It's funny that the better way is the hard way in a lot of ways.
Right. It's so hard. So hard.
Well, Christine, I can tell that you're strong, and you wouldn't be here today asking these questions and doing it on a public forum like this if you didn't have courage and a willingness to learn. So I just want to say thank you for coming on and asking these questions. And I want to make sure if you have any last questions for us that you have a chance to fire away.
No, I think I'm digesting so much that there's no questions right now. I probably have 100 tomorrow, but right now, no.
Okay, Christine. Well, if you have 100 tomorrow, by all means, you know how to reach us with some questions. And even if we don't get you on another episode very quickly, I'd be happy to try to respond to some of the questions if you have some tomorrow.
All right. I appreciate it.
All right, Christine. Have a good day.
Well.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Okay,
Bye.